Well, I think that you're right about racial reconciliation. I believe that the people who are trying to harm blacks in America are the ones who are trying to establish some sort of genetic predisposition for enslavement and being passive in this way. And once you've done that, then you're controlling the minds of black people because you're giving them a permanent subservient status and a permanent stigma of racial resentment against the white master, when that hasn't been the case. The very definition of the word slave comes from the root of the word Slav, because it was the Slavs of Eastern Europe and Russia who had been hereditary slaves for various economic and political reasons.
Well, if you read the Bible with the Israelites or the Romans or anybody else, there were slaves of every color.
There were slaves of every color, and when we get deeper into this subject, we will also talk about how the Midrash and Rabbi Moses Maimonides caused black people to be associated with Ham, and that the curse in Genesis on Ham was made a racial curse. And for those who know their Bible, they know, of course, that there is no racial component to the curse on Ham in Genesis.
And then that was used to kick off the transatlantic slave trade in the mid-1500s into the 1600s.
And provide the justification for it, yes.
Absolutely. Now, I want to be clear about this, because blacks feel victimized. They feel like a subgroup, and all whiteys must pay. Listen to Barack Obama's preacher, the blue-eyed devil. And if you look historically in numbers, there have been more white slaves than there have been black slaves. Now, again, this is the modern way of thinking. That doesn't lessen what happened to them. It's just like, again, if there's two bank robbers, you're not saying one's innocent and the other isn't. It's saying that this is a button they have installed in the psyche of blacks where the government, the nanny state, can play the part of the provider when really they're carrying out eugenics operations against them.
Well, you mentioned the elite and how the people who are not elite are mostly concerned with animal appetites, whereas the elite is concerned with control. But anyone who aspires to become elite or get into the elite, hopefully for benevolent reasons and not predatory ones, understands what maybe a lot of civil rights activists do not understand, that if you don't take responsibility for your life, if you don't blame your life on yourself or take credit for your achievements on yourself, you can't get ahead. You're psychologically crippled. And yet we see this covert mechanism in American society where blacks are told to blame others. That's not a way for them to get ahead. It's a way to keep them out of the elite. Second point here, Alex, when you mentioned Barack Obama's preacher, one of the things that troubles me about all of the negativity that's associated with that is, why is there not a commensurate amount of fury and media angst about John McCain's preacher, John Hagee, who is a man who forms what I call Ku Klux Judaism? And
no, I agree. Stay there. Well, we actually expose the fact that he says Jesus isn't the Messiah and that worshiping Israel is the new religion. We'll be right back with our guest. Stay with us. Author, journalist for the Associated Press, historian. We've only got him for about 20 more minutes, so I'm just going to try to shut up. It just is all so intriguing. And then I want to get him back for a full 2 hours the next month or so. And we're going to, before he leaves us, let's just do it now. Give out your websites. Tell folks about some of the books you've written.
The website, Alex, is revisionisthistory.org. And some of the books are, such as the one we've been discussing, They Were White and They Were Slaves, The Untold History of the Enslavement of Whites in Early America and Industrial Britain, Secret Societies and Psychological Warfare, and I'm just finishing up a 900-page book, Judaism Discovered.
You also wrote Judaism Strange Gods.
Judaism Strange Gods in 2000, which was a groundwork for an introduction to the religion of Judaism. This 900-page book I style an introduction. It's a vast subject, so even this large tome is still an introduction. But
well, I'm going to have you on. I'm going to have you on about that because people are fascinated with it, and it's important to understand our society and these cultures, how they've grown together. Let's continue to get into. You were talking about Pastor Hagee when we hit the last break.
Well, I just think that John McCain is getting a free ride here. Obama has got to answer and continue to answer for his preacher, as he should, certainly, absolutely. He should be responsible for this man's remarks.
Well, it hasn't been brought up about Clinton pardoning the Weathermen. I mean, but look, Rush Limbaugh is calling for riots and burning cars and death at the DNC. They just want crisis, crisis, crisis. But go ahead and talk about Hagee.
Well, it's interesting. I believe that McCain is the candidate of the cryptocracy. I think that Hillary is their fallback, and certainly they could deal with Obama if they processed him sufficiently. But I'm a longtime student of the Israeli media, and I know from the Israeli media and from my own informants and counterintelligence that we have operating inside Zionism and so forth, that we see that they're very much in favor of John McCain. They're worried about Obama, and they would, and Clinton is acceptable. So when you understand that, you understand how the media is treating McCain. As far as I'm concerned, he's getting a free ride on Hagee, because Hagee, in my judgment, is a far more sinister character than Obama's cleric.
Hagee is like a cartoon character. I mean, statements like he praises God when Palestinian children are shot and Jesus isn't the Messiah. I mean, even if you're an atheist, you have to know that that's asinine for a supposed Protestant preacher to be saying Jesus was basically a bad guy and was a rebellious person. I mean, and then he goes to the different ADL meetings and apologizes for being a Christian. It's saddening.
So why aren't we seeing that question that you've just formulated put in front of John McCain? Why aren't we seeing investigative reports in the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times along these lines? We're not. They're protecting him from the fallout there. There is some token criticism and some token references, but nothing like Obama is facing with his preachers. So I think the disparity between the two is very instructive.
Well, I agree with you. I want to go to the root of this. The next time we have you on, we'll do 2-3 hours to really cover all of this, to go back to the roots of a cult. Because we can say the roots of the New World Order in Egypt, we can say Babylon, we can say Solomon's Temple, but that was borrowing from the previous myths. We know, I mean, from my studying of the New World Order, reading history books and reading really, things that are, little known but admitted historical facts, that you have this weird obsession with Germanic power. You've got then also the royal family of England, the German royal family, believing that they are really Israelites. You've then got the supposed mainline Jews who are really Central European or Eastern European. You've then got their weird behavior radiating the Jewish children who are Sephardic. Seems there's a war against the brown Jews. You've then got weird Zionists supporting Hitler to the degree of not letting Jews get out of the country. There's so many weird similarities. We know the Germanic cultures and the Britannic cultures, merged with a lot of the Judaic stuff thousands of years ago. But as a historian studying this, I mean, when you get to the end of the day, isn't it occultist that run it, and then you've got two big branches that have grown together and are basically like the Rothschilds? I see them as almost inseparable from, the crazy leadership that's Germanic in Britain. And then so to me, it's like a sub-predator group above another predator group. I mean, what's the real hierarchy according to Michael Hoffman?
Well, first of all, I want to define our terms. We want to go to first principles, because when you talk about a cult, you start to turn off one section of the audience who thinks that you're mystifying political science and current events. And I don't think either one of us is doing that, because a cult, when I'm talking about it, is the science of mind control. And Arthur C. Clarke, who just recently passed away in Sri Lanka, defined any sufficiently advanced technology as having the appearance of magic. And so, for various reasons, the elites have both wanted to manipulate religions and mystify issues, as well as keep alive the mind control system which goes into the eternal pagan psychodrama, and from that exploit nations and peoples. But you have given us a cornucopia of conspiracies and actors in the conspiracy, but I would say we can reduce it to the way Christ reduced it. You're either Christ or you're Antichrist. There is good and there is evil. And I don't believe in existential shades of gray in this. So we can talk about a whole plethora of people, nations, and individuals who are involved, but we can also track this in a system, how it originated, where it came from, and I would say that the cradle of it is Egypt. The Talmud says 9/10 of the sorcery that the evil one had, he gave to Egypt. 1/10 went to the other nations. And actually, that was a left-handed compliment on the part of the Talmudic rabbis because they're into sorcery, and it was an indicator, one of many, that they wanted to study and master what Egypt had. And from Egypt to Babylon, from Babylon to the secret